There are some books that do not begin as stories. They arrive like wound, not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet ache that keeps widening the more you read. Train to Pakistan is one such book. This is not simply a novel about partition. It is not a history lesson. It is not even a story about India and Pakistan. It is a story about what happens when ordinary people living ordinary lives suddenly find history knocking on their doors with blood on its hands. Imagine a small village, a place where people know the sound of each other's footsteps, a place where the day begins with prayers from different faiths rising into the same sky, a place where identity is not yet a weapon. And then one day, a train arrives, not carrying the passengers, but carrying the smell of something broken in the soul of a nation. That is where this book begins. And trust me, once it begins, it doesn't leave you. Some books ask you to read them. This one asks you to witness. And that's the big difference. Published in 1956, just 9 years after the partition, Train to Pakistan remains one of the most powerful fictional portrayals of that moment in our history. And what makes it extraordinary is what Khushwant Singh chose not to do. He did not tell this story through politicians, through speeches, through the borders or maps or the grand machinery of nation building. He told it through the people. A village priest, a magistrate, a local badmash with an extraordinary human heart. Families who had lived beside one another for generations without once questioning whether they should. Mr. Khushwant Singh had a rare gift. He could write with brutal honesty and still preserve the tenderness. His prose is deceptively simple. No ornament, no literary fireworks for the sake of showing off. And yet, every page feels heavy with moral consequences. He takes one of the darkest chapters in our subcontinent's history and shrinks it into a fictional village. A village called Mano Majra, border village that becomes miniature version of everything partition did to the human mind. And this is what makes this novel timeless. It is historical, yes, but it never feels distant. Because at its heart, it's about fear, prejudice, power, love, cowardliness, and courage. All deeply human things, all still painfully relevant. The most dangerous history is not the kind that happened long ago. It is of the kind that could happen again, and we would not recognize it until it already had. The story unfolds in Mano Majra, a quiet village where Sikhs and Muslims had lived together in a kind of rustic, unhurried rhythm. The village does not run by clocks, it runs by trains. The morning train tells them it is a time to wake. The evening train tells them the day is ending. There is something quietly poetic about that. A whole community measuring the pulse of life through the arrival and departure of a steel and a steam. And then history enters the frame. Partition begins tearing through Punjab. News of riots, killings, migrations start traveling faster than the truth. What was once distant slowly moves closer and closer and closer. But Mr. Singh is genius in how he handles this descent. He does not throw the chaos at you immediately. Instead, he lets the tension gather, like storm clouds building over a landscape that is still technically calm. A robbery, an arrest, suspicion, political figures entering a space that was once innocent. Rumors quietly changing how neighbors look at one another. Fear becoming contagious the way only fear can. Hatred rarely begins with monsters. It begins with fear, with stories, with labels, and with the slow, almost imperceptible evaporation of shared humanity. At the center of this gathering storm are a few unforgettable characters. There is Jagga, the village tough guy, rough-edged, impulsive, and immediately easy to judge. But Mr. Singh refuses to let you judge him for long. Underneath the rough exterior is someone far more emotionally alive and morally complex than the first impression suggests. Then there is Iqbal, educated, ideological, articulate, carrying the kind of intellect that wants to solve the society like a puzzle. He arrives with ideas and finds that ideas are not always what a burning village needs. And surrounding them, the machinery of administration, law, and power. Officials who are as humanly conflicted as everyone else. Neither heroes nor villains. Just ordinary people trying to manage something that cannot be managed. What begins as a village drama slowly transforms into something much larger. A silent meditation on whether love, morality, and basic decency can survive collective madness. The most haunting characters in literature are not the ones who do terrible things. They are the ones who almost do the right thing and then don't. The train in this novel is not just transport. It becomes a symbol, a moving coffin of a history, a mechanical witness to displacement, revenge, and the industrial rhythm of human cruelty. Mr. Singh uses it with devastating precision. The same train that once told the village when to wake and when to rest now carries something no one wants to name out loud. By the time the final stretch of the story approaches, you can feel the novel tightening around your chest. You sense that someone somewhere is going to be asked a terrible moral question. A question about what they are willing to do, what they are willing to risk, what they are willing to become or refuse to become when everything around them has already chosen a side. I will not spoil the ending, but I will say this. It does not ask whether the humanity survives history. It asks who is willing to pay the price for it. And the answer, when it comes, lands like a quiet blow. Some moral choices are not between good and evil. They are between two kinds of loss. And the people who make those choices anyway, for the right reasons, are the ones literature remembers. What stayed with me most after finishing the train to Pakistan was not the violence. It was the intimacy. The way Mr. Singh shows that history is never abstract. Partition in textbook is numbers, dates, borders, and policies. But here it becomes deeply personal. It becomes who is your neighbor? Who do you trust? What stories are you willing to believe? What fears are you willing to inherit and pass on without even questioning where it came from? This book reminded me that civilization is often thinner than we think. A few rumors, a few speeches, a few wounded egos, a few manipulative voices speaking from the frightened silence. And suddenly, same people who once shared food begin sharing suspicion instead. That is what makes this novel haunting. It is not about those people in the history. It quietly and uncomfortably asks, would you have done anything different? And then, just when the book feels unbearably dark, it offers a flicker. Not optimism, something far more honest than the optimism. Possibility that individual courage can still matter even when the system fails. That one act, one decision, one quiet refusal to surrender to hate can become larger than any ideology. That to me is the emotional engine of this book. Not the partition itself, but the stubborn, fragile possibility of humanity inside the partition. It left me silent after the last page. The kind of silence that feels like standing on an empty railway platform long after the train has gone. Some books ask you to read them. This one asked me to witness. And I am still standing on that platform. If you have never read The Train to Pakistan, I genuinely believe that it is one of those books that every reader should experience at least once. Not because it is important, though it is actually, but because it teaches empathy through the story in a way that history books rarely do. It shows us that nations are divided on maps, but human beings are divided first in the imagination. And literature, at its very best, heals that fracture by making us feel the true cost of it. I will not lie to you. This is a very painful book, a beautiful book, and above all, a deeply necessary book. Go in slowly. Let it breathe. Let it sit with you the way it sat with me. And with that, me Nikhil, signing off. We will meet again soon with another book, another quiet conversation, and another cup of coffee. Until then, take care of yourself. If you get some value from this video, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Share this video with a fellow reader and keep turning the page. I thank you very much.